The Dark Overlord releases 9/11 files, and no one's really talking about what's in the files yet. Cue the music. I don't have music? No. I'll just have to make do. So check this out. The Dark Overlord. First layer of files is out. Apparently people have paid some Bitcoin. No one knows who. Could be Donald Trump. Don't know. Wouldn't that be funny? But I wanted to point this out. So this is the most recent article that's out 10 hours ago. It says, hacking group The Dark Overlord, who was removed from Twitter, and I find that interesting because when I searched for him, I mean, I wasn't following him before in all honesty, but is this them? This account was created in 2016, and I actually find it funny also that they mentioned Caton, and it says Caton returns more powerful than before, and this is from 2016, but I mentioned Caton in a couple videos ago as something that was similar to what the CenturyLink hack might have been, or like a much better version of this. So it's funny that in 2011, all the things that they're saying in this article here about Caton were possible. I'll give you the quick rundown on it. So again, this is Caton returns more powerful than before, and Caton was kind of a botnet thing that was controlled over IRC, Internet Relay Chat, and where I don't want to say it got famous because it's not famous necessarily, but where it probably got some more notoriety was Bullsec had used the Caton botnet to do some of their things, and some of the people in Anonymous. So, and honestly, they were talking about being on routers with Caton back in at least 2011. It could have been even earlier than that. I'd have to check chat logs and see, but it was definitely a while before. So it says, ESET researchers have spotted a new version of Caton, an internet relay chat controlled malware typically used to carry out distributed denial of service attacks. The remastered malware has been dubbed Caton Remastered, or Caton RM, with 3 versions already identified by ESET researchers. Based on artifacts in the code, the main feature of the malware is an improved spreading mechanism. So this is what I'm talking about, the spreading mechanism. Based primarily on telnet scanning, Caton Remastered improves on that spreading mechanism by carrying downloader executable binaries for embedded platforms such as routers and other connected devices, mainly targeting those with weak login credentials. So, what does that mean? A router, obviously you know what a router is. But another connected device, that could be your cell phone, that could be your laptop, that could be your smart TV, that could be your smart fridge. So what this is a botnet that can be dropped onto pretty much anything. Not anything, but multiple different things. And then as long as it's connected to the internet, it calls home and it waits for commands. So maybe your TV's watching you. I'm sure you heard about the Samsung TVs a while back that were really watching you as you're watching them. I'm sure you know your phone's always listening to you. So this is just one more example of how it could be a nefarious thing. But again, it also opens up that, I'm big on the someone's dropping a crypto miner on your device and slowly using your device's power to get themselves not rich, but definitely try to line their pockets on your time, your processing power. So again, Caton, I thought that was interesting to bring up. I'm gonna have to look at some of these other tweets that they posted around here. This looks like this is from 2016, and I'd have to reverse image search this, but this looks kind of like that sub that Q had posted a while back. The picture of it. I don't know what the article was that he had posted, but that seems pretty familiar. So wouldn't it be funny if the Dark Overlord was part of the Q collect or the Q group? Oh, an Apple O-Day vulnerability compromises your device. Back again, man. Jeez, I need to dig through his thing. Let's just keep it moving though. Again, I said that that this 9/11 document dump is it's a ploy. It's part of the Q plan. The Dark Overlord had said themselves, their goal was to burn down the deep state, have devastating consequences for the deep state. So I think it's funny that back in 2016, again, I'm going to play this clip again, Trump makes this Q with his right hand here. So watch his hand as he makes this kind of Q. So he goes up and he makes a circle in the tail. So again, watch as he makes his Q.
Iran's taken over, okay. But it wasn't the Iraqis. You will find out who really knocked down the World Trade Center because they have papers in there that are very secret. You may find it's the Saudis, okay? That knocked down the World Trade Center. We went after Iraq. We decimated the country. Iran's taken over.
Here it is.
But it wasn't the Iraqis. You will find out who really knocked down the World Trade Center because they have papers in there that are very secret. You may find it's the Saudis, okay? But you will find out. But it wasn't Iraq. So you say, but when I look at it...
So he says they have papers. They're very secret. I went to the steemit post to see if there's anything updated on there. It didn't seem like there was. A few hours ago, just people basically asking, like, okay, I needed to read this. This guy, 7 hours ago, he says, obviously I'm not a hacker and have no actual experience. However, if I were you, I would release a few really juicy documents, then send them to the big conspiracy people like Alex Jones. If you get the right people talking, you'll have no problem doubling your goal. So this guy's probably not a finance executive or probably not even a bank teller. Alex Jones is a terrible person to send this to. And of course you have no actual experience. Why would you have actual experience? Anyway, so I get a kick out of this. Yeah, I mean, people basically either calling it the stuff fraud, it's a LARP, or they're basically just being armchair quarterbacks. So let's keep it moving. Ed from The Outer Light posted an interesting video about a Flight 93 connection and Kim.com that was in here a little ways, and I have the document actually that he references. I'll put the link, obviously. I'll do my best to remember to put the link in the video. But this is a great video. The Outer Light's a great channel. I like a lot of his solving stuff too. Real good about it. Real concise also. Unlike me, I ramp incessantly. So anyway, Flight 93 and the Kim.com stuff. So the Flight 93 stuff was really interesting to me, and what it was talking about was actually in this document. This is about liability, and so I went through and let's just go and we'll just try to find it real quick. So the military. So let me read this to you. And again, this is about they're trying to figure out where the blame lies for this incident. They're trying to say, well, if you guys would have done X, Y, and Z, this would have never happened. And then, the other company comes back, whether it's the airlines or the insurers or whoever, and they say, well, no, because it scared the crap out of me. Oh man. So I'm just gonna read it to you. It says, newer corporate jets already have automatic transponders, which engage a secondary unit automatically if the primary transponder fails. Did you know that? Did you know that? I'm trying to get good at this. Okay, it's going to take a while. Just bear with me. The use of automatic transponders should have been mandatory on all new jetliners. Older planes could have been retrofitted for use of this technology for a relatively modest cost. Aviation experts agree that knowing right away that the planes had not crashed but had been commandeered might have cut precious minutes off the time it took the FAA to decide to contact the military. This was interesting to me. Commandeered. Not hijacked. Commandeered. The connotation of the word, to me, it means something. Let's just see real quick. So again, the difference between a hijacking and commandeering. And a commandeering is to officially take possession or control of something, especially for military purposes. So this is actually implying that the military was able to take over the plane, and that the military was the ones in control of this plane. They're referencing that says, this may have allowed the military to intervene as they did on the flight in Pennsylvania. Wait, what? What? I'm going to try all these angles. I have 2 angles, so it's kind of a one-trick pony, but just stick with me, please. So, whoa, even adding emojis in here, these legal documents. Alright, so again, let me read this to you one more time, because I think that this needs to really sink in. Aviation experts agree that knowing right away that the planes had not crashed but had been commandeered. Again, the planes had not crashed but they had been taken over by the military, might have cut off precious minutes from the time the FAA took to decide to contact the military. Now, hijacked implies, I think the connotation that we all have is that someone is physically there and has, by force or coercion, taken the controls in the cockpit, and they are now flying the plane. When I see it like this, commandeer, and it talks about the military, that leads me to believe one of 2 things. Either there was military on the plane who did it, or the military was able to remotely steer the plane. And I don't know which one it is yet. I've heard that the technology, obviously, to remotely control planes had been around since, I think it was like the 60s, and that the CIA had a plan to actually where's my camera? Hijack. Jeez, like I said, I'm working here. Okay, just bear with me. Had a plan to fake hijack a plane, offload the passengers, and then fly a duplicate plane with the same transponder number or what have you, and blow it up over the ocean and blame it on Cuba as a way to invade Cuba. Because again, this is when the tensions were obviously really tight and really hot with Cuba. Again, obviously when JFK was involved. Again, this document here, and this is all just posturing to try to set everybody up to place the blame on someone else. The airline's failure to adopt such a policy represents another possible breach of their duty to exercise reasonable care. I mean, even the language they say there is almost like a slap in the face. They're saying reasonable care, not even, like above and beyond duty. They're saying like, hey, this is the bare minimum you guys needed to do and you failed to do it. You don't even have policies in place that make it so that you would follow this. Failure to retain adequate security services on the ground. This talks about the incompetence of a lot of the guards, or the security guards, or the people in checkpoints, down there. I think it talks about people, they didn't know how to wand correctly, and instead of giving them retraining, they would just be fired, and then someone new would be replacing them. So there was never anyone who had a lot of time under their belt. Again, this is what these people are claiming. So they're again posturing to try to set themselves up to say, oh no, if they would have done their job, then then it wouldn't have got to me. No one wants to pay for it, basically. But funny thing is, there's some documents in here that show who got some money, and how much even, I believe. But we're still getting to those. I'm just gonna open some random, a few of them here that I got open that were interesting to me. Let's go back, see what other tabs I had open. This is kind of my stream of consciousness here. So again, commandeer. I thought that was an interesting word for them to have used there. So let's go back to the documents. What was this other one here? Oh, this one might have been the, yeah. Analysis of potential subrogation for the World Trade Center loss. Now, I didn't know what subrogation meant, so I had to go look it up. And I'm sure all of you wordsmiths out there knew what it meant and didn't, but subrogation is the substitution of one person or group by another in respect of a debt or insurance claim, accompanied by the transfer of any associated rights or duties. So basically what subrogation is passing the buck. It's literally just passing the buck. They're basically saying, like, yeah, I know that you say it's my fault, but it was really this guy's fault because he is like a subcontractor of me, and I delegated down to him, and he didn't do his job, so I know you're blaming me for it because I was the oversight, but I'm just gonna have to, I'm gonna have to push it off onto this dude over here. So that's kind of what's happening, what all these documents are about. It's just showing that the people were more preoccupied with trying to point fingers than they were with getting to the truth. Let's see, where else next? So let's go back to subrogation. So this is talking about this is kind of like the outline for it, and some of the stuff was kind of interesting in here, especially when we get down to the bottom, and maybe that's why they put it down at the bottom of this, so you can skim right past it. But here's what they're saying. They're saying, okay, here's the airlines. Here's the reason the airlines are at fault. Here's the reason why Americans are at fault, American Airlines. And so they'll give you the background, their theories. So they say, like, okay, we can blame negligence, that they didn't train their security crew well enough. The retention of the security services, again, they would just be hiring and firing. There was very high turnover rate. Failure to maintain control of aircraft. So the flight attendants apparently didn't do their job. The captains in the cockpit apparently didn't do their job. And a failure to warn other aircraft. So again, as they're getting hijacked, they didn't do their duty to basically say to everybody else, hey, we're being hijacked. We need you guys to be aware. I think they're supposed to squawk, whatever it is, 2,600, 3,600 or something, 5,000. I don't know. So then they were talking about, again, and I didn't know if this was right, but delegible duties, basically duties that you cannot delegate. And that's what's going to get into like some of the security duties, basically saying like you can't just rely on somebody else and call it good. And then this here, I had no idea what that meant, so of course, I want to go look it up. How does it relate to this? So let's listen to it real quick.
Res ipsa loquitur.
One more time.
Res ipsa loquitur.
Res ipsa loquitur. And it is Latin for the thing that speaks for itself. Basically, it is a principle that the occurrence of an accident implies that you were negligent. Basically, an accident happened because you didn't take all of the possible preventative measures that you could have to see that this wouldn't have occurred. So, again, this all this stuff is pointing to everyone just basically saying like, hey, not my fault, someone else's fault, don't make me pay. So we go in here. So again, we just keep getting down here. And they're talking about, you know, the claims and things they can make, and different companies. So now they're trying to blame the aircraft, and they're saying that it was negligence on the part of Boeing because they designed the aircraft poorly. And there's another document in there, I know, that they basically, all of this is just building cases. So one of the things that in there they talk about, you know, it's to Boeing, and it says, you know, because you put this out and sold it, that was essentially you saying without saying that it is deemed safe for the public to travel on, and it's clearly not safe, because look at this terrible event that happened that could have been prevented if you could have done this, that, or the other. Again, everyone's just trying to point the finger. Let's see, where else? That's right, we get down into the government here, and now I remember why I kept this one open, because again, people, I don't know, I looked for some other videos on this, maybe it's being suppressed, or maybe just people haven't dug through this document, or haven't made a video as they've dug through because they want to do more. But this, as I get to the bottom, you're going to see this one was pretty crazy. So why do people need immunity? Like, well, waiver of immunity, okay, for the FTCA. Massachusetts Port Authority, so they're the ones who operate Logan Airport. They want immunity. Why would they need immunity? Because possibly they were complying with an inside job. Where did the terrorists get onto their plane? Was it at Logan Airport in Boston? And that's where they made their connecting flight. So again, why do people from the MPA need immunity? It seems kind of fishy, doesn't it? Again, they would only need immunity if they're going to basically implicate themselves or someone else. Well, they're going to implicate themselves basically, but implicate others as well. But it has to be pretty bad if they need immunity.
We are the dreamers of dreams.
Foreign governments. So, and it says theories of recovery. This is basically, you can translate this to what kind of bullshit can we make up that people are going to believe. So, civil conspiracy. So they're going to say that it was a sponsorship of terrorism, so that's why they're trying to say Iraq was involved. That Saddam Hussein was funding Al-Qaeda. That's why we needed to go into Iraq. Civil conspiracy, so they're saying, okay, well maybe we can make it like a Timothy McVeigh incident. Rico, obviously. Well, let's see. I don't know enough about this. So, why don't we get out the shovel? So we already know what commandeer means. Is this Willy Wonka? So, the Foreign Sovereign Immunities Act of 1976, FSIA, not to be confused with FISA, is the primary means for bringing a lawsuit against a foreign sovereign or its agencies and instrumentalities. The act establishes certain procedures that must be followed when suing a foreign sovereign and attaching property for international debt recovery purposes. So what this means is that, hey, how are we going to sue this other country's government and get money back from them? How can we basically attach a number that says, hey, you owe us this money because you caused this much problem? Again, finger pointing and blame game. Let's go back to the documents. Collection prospects. International tortfeasors. Again, that was one I had to look up. What the heck does that mean? So, where are we here?
Tortfeasor. Tortfeasor.
So one more time.
Tortfeasor.
It is a person who commits a tort. What? A tort? So it's a tort apparently is a civil indiscretion. There it is. Tortfeasor. A person who commits a tort, civil wrong, either intentionally or through negligence. So again, the whole thing is just about what's going on with it, everyone. Okay, international tortfeasors, hijackers, Bin Laden, Al Qaeda spelled wrong. This is probably when they're still trying to figure it out. It's just, I'm always interested to see what comes up, what's on purpose and what's not. I didn't get any of those spellings right. It's a good try though. It wasn't in here. There's a document that talks about specifically foreseeability. There. Let's keep doing it. So this was just a case, and I guess here's a quick little, if you were going to dig, if you're going to do something, here's how you can start looking things up, kind of thing. Just copy the case number. This is the year that it was filed. This is what it is, if it's a civilian case, if it's a federal case, and then this is the actual case number itself. So I went into, do I have anything open? It's not. Okay, so here's what you do. You go into Acer, Monitor, Adatka, put in your case. You're not going to get all the info, but you can see what it is. And there's four civil whatever cases going on, so you can check them out. Bada bing, bada boom. See when it was terminated, see when it was filed. Hey, if you want to create an account, cool, go for it. You can see the full docket on it. You can see who all is involved in it as well. again, just stuff about the case for them. It's a John Doe and a John Smith against basically Afghanistan, so we're trying to charge Afghanistan there. Bada boom. It's just a whole bunch of crazy stuff. A few of these, so. Oh, this is the, okay, here we go. So this was then now they're really nailing it down, and they're going, okay, who can we blame this on? What can we really blame? We really got to figure it out. So they're saying, okay, the airlines. What was it? The security door to the cockpit. Who failed to design them? Oh, it could be Boeing. We could blame Boeing. Oh man, they didn't do this right. It could depressurize the plane. Well, they should have been trained on that. And the transponder should have been mandated by the FAA. So the FAA, they should have made it so they could not have been turned off. So this is also the FAA's fault partially. There should have been some sort of oversight of the security firms. Why were they allowed to just do what they will? They were just, in charge with nobody overseeing them or babysitting them. And it said, what did the airlines know about the risks? Did anyone consider knives? I'm sure they considered knives, okay? They don't give you a real knife when you get your chicken or fish on the plane. They give you a plastic piece of crap. So I'm sure they considered knives, okay? Knives are a weapon. They realize that's a weapon. They don't think that it stops it with firearms. Did they have a duty to study and report risks? Did the airlines independently study the risk of hijacking? Security companies, the only reason they are there is to prevent hijackings, and that's true. That's true. There's a law apparently that's passed I should look up. So what was the intent of the law? What was envisioned? Obviously it was to prevent hijackings. Industry standard security should exceed the minimum expectations, obviously. So they're saying they should have had consultants, blah blah blah. So the federal government, how are they to blame? So they're basically saying that planes don't have explosions on them anymore. They don't blow up because of bombs, I guess. They're saying that they're spending too much of the research dollars on figuring out, who's bringing a bomb in a bag, which, it seems pretty foolish. And I think maybe that's why that we had the shoe bomber and all the other bombers. Shortly after that, they needed to justify this research and development money going the wrong way, especially when these kind of things were. So when was this actually filed? Let's say positive points. I don't know if that's knowledge or that's positive. I mean, it says they had knowledge of the threat. Oh, here it is. GAO looking at FAA because FAA is a government. So I had to figure out what was GAO, but it was Government Accountability Office. So there was threat briefings. Apparently, they were briefed by both the Air Force and the FAA, and Bin Laden was specifically identified. What? Okay. So they're explaining they're basically saying that the recognition of the threat was well presented, but the specifics were not. So the specifics of the threat weren't well presented. They identified Middle Eastern entities and persons. They were looking for high visibility. How that applies. I see. They were looking for high visibility targets instead of these lower quality or lower level threats. They kind of let slip through the cracks, and it had possible catastrophic consequences. Obviously, it did have some kind of catastrophic consequences. They basically just said it was too hard, so we're not going to do it. They gave it the old switch your major after sophomore year. Some arrests of persons prepared to use plane as a weapon. Find this. Oh. So there is some arrests apparently out there. Someone has tipped off this person who wrote this document, this paralegal or what have you, and there were people planning to use planes as missiles or weapons, and they were arrested apparently on this. So there's some sort of precedent already. This Vigo guy must be a, so that's what it says at the top of this document. My guess is maybe this Vigo butler, why should I guess? Let's just Google him. Say I would have guessed that he must be an insider who worked for the FAA. Whoa, 4-inch blade, really? Pretty big. That's for Viggo Mortensen. Yeah, I didn't think I'd find this guy, but yeah, garbage. Why would it work? Okay, so he basically says some witnesses will testify that racial profiling was in effect, although they were officially say that we did not do it. Ramzi Youssef, liquid explosive in the bag was a known threat. So is he one of the terrorists, or is he sounds familiar. Yes, I did. Oh, that's right. Ramzi Youssef is a Pakistani convicted and incarcerated international terrorist who was one of the main perpetrators of the 1993 World Trade Center bombing, the bombing of the Philippine Airlines Flight 434, and was a I'm just going to stop right there because I don't know how to pronounce that. So, okay, Ramzi Youssef. I'm wondering if he must have liquid explode. That's weird. Because he doesn't really relate to flying. They used a car bomb or whatever. Mid-Easterners in flight schools' failure to share information by various government departments. The government doesn't communicate well interdepartmentally. Info shared, they would have not got on the plane. So it sounds like these people have been flagged by other agencies, but they were not shared, the ones that could actually make a difference. Negative points. FAA focused really on bombs in bags, not a focus on hijacking. It wasn't on their agenda. They did not care what the passengers carried on the plane. Okay, now I see. Did not care what the passengers carried on the plane. They were allowed to have a 4-inch blade. 4-inch blade, that's pretty crazy. I might have something that's like close to that out here. I think that is like close to a 4-inch blade, basically. 3-inch blade. So that was fine to carry on a plane. So I think that's 3-4 inches, and that's fine to carry on a plane at the time. That's pretty crazy. So let's keep going. Wow. So they would periodically view, but they would never change their procedures. SOP. They rejected hijackings to just focus on bombs and bags, which also might not be a threat. What did the FAA do to explore threats between the two extremes? Oh, I see. So on one side you have them plane up, so now the plane no longer exists, and then on the other side you have the people stealing the plane. But what's in between there? What is if somebody gets on a plane and murders somebody, but the plane still is fine? You know, those are the kind of things they said. Did you guys even think about anything in between? Read briefings and reactions at subcommittee, aka security clearance. Interesting. I'm just trying to really push the knife regulation. Documents that address revisitation of the knife regulation. FAA breakdowns. They said they knew they would do something major. Refused to revoke 4-inch blade restriction. Points of incompetence. Ooh, there's a lot. Knowledge of the threat. They still focused on bombs in bags. So they already knew that there was going to be a hijack of some kind, but they still focused on preventing bombs being brought on planes. And okay, Vigo must be this insider because apparently he can identify the documents that will make it happen. So we're gonna have to run a search through all the documents for this guy's name. Hijacking items forward. Alright. Couldn't impose tighter rules because they couldn't be enforced. The system was designed to fail. Introduces profit motive and security components. Okay, mandating that airlines have a responsibility for security. Interesting. Oh, it's getting late. Who's this Irish Flynn guy? Whoever he is, he regrets the decision to let knives on a plane. Knives in a plane, snakes on a plane. FAA. Irish Flynn. So this Navy guy, is he related to Mike Flynn? Not that it matters, I'm just interested. Get back to it later. Let's look at... Wow, okay, so the conclusion of this is there was a complete disconnect for all the agencies and everyone involved. Nobody was talking with each other or passing intelligence back and forth. Everyone was just kind of running around like a chicken with their head cut off. They had even recognized the threat. They knew it was going to be, but they still discounted it. They still focused on the bombs and the bags because that was the direction they were already going, and that was just easier to keep going that way. Just weren't prepared for it. Wow. Although the airlines hire private entities to provide terminal security, we will argue that the airlines had a non-delegible duty to prevent passengers from carrying dangerous weapons on board its flights. This goes back to that knife and that 4-inch blade thing. Think about it this way. If they're allowed to carry a box cutter on, which has like less than a 1-inch blade and a 4-inch blade, imagine what they could have apparently done with that. One airline security expert has stated, the security contracts sometimes go to the lowest bidder. These people are paid low wages. If not security, then they might be flipping burgers. And that's footnoted. Security concerns at Logan Airport, okay. Even if we are not able to establish that the airlines are responsible for the negligent acts of the security company employees, we will argue that the airlines were negligent in hiring and failing to properly retain, monitor its independent contractors. So... Wow. Nice picture of General Flynn. He's Democrat. Looking at that. Sorry. I probably should just get to bed. It's getting pretty late. Alright, maybe one more. So let's scroll through the Bible. Nothing in this one? Okay. Okay, let's try one more. Well, it aired out, so I'd say that's where it's time to leave me for tonight. So, let me just leave you with...
We decimated the country. Iran's taken over. Okay. But it wasn't the Iraqis. You will find out who really knocked down the World Trade Center because they have papers in there that are very secret. You may find it's the Saudis.
You may find that it's the deep state. Have a good night.